All right, so this is from iLearn Day 17, and I want to cover the last part of it, 9 through 12. And I'm not going to cover each question, but I'll cover all of question 9 because really, question 9 gives you most of everything you need. We'll look at a little bit of question 10, and I think from there you'll have everything you need to answer the rest of them, okay? So notice in the instructions it says solve each system by graphing. So in other words, you're going to graph both of these lines, okay? Oops, sorry. Okay, you're going to graph this first line right here, and you're going to graph this one. They're both separate lines, okay? So you're going to graph both of those. And then it says find the point of intersection, okay? The point of intersection just means the point, okay, where those two lines cross. The point where those two lines cross. So you're going to graph both lines. You're going to look at where they both cross, and it's that point that is your point of intersection, okay? So to do any of these, you're going to look first and foremost, at this number right here at the end of the equation. That is your y-intercept, okay? That right there, I'm going to write that down. That is your y-intercept, okay? And all that means is that's where your line crosses the y-axis. Okay, so that's always your starting point. That's an actual point on the graph. So take that first equation there, y equals negative 3x minus 1. Negative 1 right there is my y-intercept. So I'm just going to go to the y-axis, okay, which is that vertical axis right there. That's my y-axis. I'm going to go to negative 1, right, because negative 1 is my y-intercept. So on the y-axis, I'm just going to go to negative 1, and I'm going to put a point there, okay? Once I've done that, once I've got my starting point, that's when I look at this number right here, right in front of the x. That number is my slope. Or in other words, that tells you how to move from one point to the other. Okay? So remember, slope is the same as rise over run. Okay? Slope is just rise over run. So if my slope, say in that first equation, is negative 3, right? It's negative 3. That's the same as negative 3 over 1. Okay, so in other words, rise over run, I'm going to rise negative 3, so I'm going to go down 3, and I'm going to run positive 1, or I'm going to go to the right 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that with you now, okay? So I'm starting at my starting point, that is right there, right, my y-intercept that I've already graphed, and I'm going to go down 3, right, because my rise is negative 3. So I'm going to go down 1, down 2, down 3, okay? And once I've done that, then I'm going to run positive 1, and that just means run is left and right. So I'm going to go to the right 1 because it's positive. So from there, I'm going to go to the right 1. Boom, there's my point, okay? I'm going to erase these dotted lines here so that doesn't throw you off. Okay, now, oftentimes it'll be essential to do this, and it's just a good thing to do. You're going to want to get a point going in both directions, okay? So notice I just went down 3, right 1. Now I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go back to my starting point and go the opposite way. Or in other words, look at my slope, okay? I'm going to take that negative. Instead of putting it with the rise, I'm going to put it with the run, okay? So now going back to my starting point, going back to negative 1, I'm going to go up 3, and then I'm going to go left 1, up 3 and left 1. Okay, I'm just doing the opposite of what I did at first. So I'm going to go up 1, up 2, up 3, and then I'm going to go left 1, and there's my point. Okay, and again, I'm going to erase those dotted lines so it doesn't throw you off. Okay, so that's probably enough points. It's definitely enough points to get you a line. Okay, obviously, if you really wanted a straight line, you do it with a ruler. I think it'll be okay just to kind of eyeball it for our sakes right now. Okay, so there's my line. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this other line. Okay, so notice my starting point is positive 3. My y-intercept is positive 3. So on the y-axis, I'm going to go to positive 3, and I'll put a point. And my slope, now this throws a lot of people off. Okay, remember it's the number in front of the x. Well, there is no number in front of the x. Just remember what we've known from algebra class, okay? Like when you got an x by itself, you got a variable by itself, there's always a 1 in front of it. We just don't write it, Okay, so my slope is actually 1. My slope is 1, or in other words, my slope is 1 over 1, right? Because 1 and 1 over 1 are the same thing. Okay, so I'll go to my starting point. I'll go to positive 3, right? Because that's where I started. That was my y-intercept. So starting at 3, I'm going to go up 1, and then right 1. Okay, so I'm going up 1 and then right 1. Boom. Okay, let's do that a couple times. Up 1, right 1. Now if I do it again, I'll be off the graph. So let's go the opposite way. Okay, so in this case, positive 1 over positive 1 is the same thing as negative 1 over negative 1. So I'm just doing the opposite. Okay, go back to my starting point at 3, go down 1, left 1. Go down 1, left 1. Okay? And then you get your graph. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it for our purposes right now. And it's right here. Okay, so we've got our lines graphed. Right here you can see those two lines cross. They come together. Okay, so that point right there, okay, is, write it over here on the left, negative 1 on the x-axis, and then it's up 2. It's positive 2 on the y-axis. So that right there is my point of intersection. You can see right there, that's where they come together. Okay, and there we go. We've answered the whole question. We've graphed both lines, and we found the point of intersection. Okay, you're going to do the same thing for all of these. All right, so that should give you kind of a template to finish the rest of it. I'll just show you one thing here with this equation. The slope is in the fraction form, which is actually, it may seem more complicated when you look at it, but that actually saves you a step. Okay, so in this case, right, start at your y-intercept. So my y-intercept for that first line is negative 3. And my slope, remember, is that number that's right next to the x. Okay, so my slope is negative 1/2. Okay, so to do that, you can do it one of two ways. You can think of it as negative 1 over positive 2. So my rise would be negative 1 or down 1, and my run would be positive 2. Or, let's think of it a different way. We could do the opposite. We could take that negative, put it with the run. So my rise is positive 1, or I would go up 1 and then left 2. You could do it either way. I'll just show you real quick, and I think that'll give you enough to answer the rest of it. Okay? So since I have it written like this, let's just go ahead and do it like this. Okay, I'm going to rise up 1, and I'm going to go to the left 2. Left 2, there's my point. And I'll just do it one more time. Up 1, left 2, there's my next point. Okay? But just to kind of illustrate my point, I'll flip that negative around to the top. Okay, so let's grab that negative, put it up with the rise. Okay, so this time my rise is negative 1. So I'm going to go down 1 and then right 2. Okay, so let's go back to the starting point, the y-intercept. And we're going to go down 1 and then right 2. Down 1 and then right 2. Okay, and you can kind of see, just by looking at it, you can see the line right there. Okay, we'll just eyeball it. And there it is. Okay, so that right there pretty much arms you to do all of these, right? Start with your y-intercept, use your slope to get the other points, okay? Graph both lines and figure out where they cross, and you should be able to answer all those.